Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hotel Dropouts. I'm Ursina, and I will be joining the Hotel Dropout boys, Jamie, Benny, and Dan today. And we will be talking about if making friends as you get older gets more difficult, and also about the modern loneliness epidemic today. If you are listening to us, you like the podcast, support us by checking out our Patreon, leaving a like on the video, commenting your opinions, and maybe even subscribing. So hi, everyone.
Yay, she did it. Our first ever guest. Yay.
Yeah. Congrats. Thank you for coming. And hello, everyone.
Hello. Thank you again, Christina, for coming.
No
Glad to
worries.
have you.
I am so excited to finally have a female presence in this podcast. I've had to deal with this toxic male energy for months. And I have to say,
What?
Not sure if you will get out of me what you're expecting, though.
Yeah, you're gonna learn that she's unhinged.
oh boy,
Since you haven't gotten
Let's be
cancelled
toxic,
yet.
Jamie.
Fine.
oh boy.
I mean, pretty sure Dan already said some pretty cancelable statements in future previous
My favorite one when both of you were like semi-silent and at the same time you're like, oh, careful. And then I still said something and both of you were like, no.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was about women or something, right?
Most likely.
It's all right. We were before we started recording, we were talking about like AI and ChatGPT and stuff, and about how one guy was training his ChatGPT personality to be exactly like that AI in the show Her. I think it was a 2015 movie, isn't it, or something like that?
Yeah, with Scarlett Johansson. Should we start with just a few anecdotes? So aside from this story, there's also another slightly more intense one, a little bit more sad. But this story is, I think it's more well known that this guy's just training his AI to sound like, to act and behave like Scarlett Johansson in the movie Her. And when it gets wiped, because after a while of usage, your chat session gets restarted, and then basically this personality that you've trained is gone. And he was crying in the office. And what was so intense about this story was that most people hear this, you think that this is a guy who is a single, kind of like a loser vibe, nerdy, talented programmer kind of person. But no, he has a wife. He has a girlfriend and he has a daughter. And he's like a guy with a somewhat fully functional family.
This is kind of bringing us to the loneliness epidemic.
Exactly.
Like sometimes you can be lonely even if there are other people around you.
Yeah, you can. And also, just because he's married and stuff doesn't mean he's happy in his relationship.
I mean, he can still be happy, but just like you can still grieve about losing something that you like.
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine, he was in his relationship, but due to not getting his needs fulfilled, he started developing a crush on somebody else. And we spoke a lot about it. Like I was staying over at his place, and he didn't like that he was feeling that, but he doesn't know what to do. And we sat together and we talked about it like for the whole night long. And he realized like he needed to just talk with his partner about the thing that he's missing in his relationship. And at the end of the day, they were able to talk about it, and they found a way to like circumvent it. And this feeling that he had like slowly started going away. And one good thing is that he never acted upon it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he never acted upon his feelings towards other people and stayed true, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Well, if he had he acted on those feelings, wouldn't that have been cheating?
That would have been, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what Bernard was kind of going around.
Yeah.
Good for him. And then to talk about this loneliness pandemic, I think the most symbolic story that I've heard over the last 3 months was the fact that there was this young boy, I think no more than 15, 16 years old. We talked about this briefly, where he was I forgot so there's this company that he was using the product of, and it's a chat bot that comes with a character model, that comes with a sort of an avatar. And I feel bad because I think in my past job I've worked on a project that collaborates with a company called Replica, and it's text to speech. So it's a text to speech AI, that kind of stuff. And so I have a part to play in this. But basically, he was chatting with this AI bot that he I don't know if he made it in the image of Khaleesi, or was it like a preset that you could choose. But basically, he's been engaged in this relationship with this bot for a few months, I think, and eventually he, when something was so unbearable, and then he wanted to take his life, the bot basically said something along the lines of "Good night, my sweet king," or something. So,
or like join us or something like that. Didn't
possibly. So this is an intricate case, because it's not like the bot, decisively said you should go off yourself, but it was just like, he said he was going to off himself, and then the bot was, "Oh, good night, my sweet king." So in this case, should the bot be
supporting?
So what do you guys think? There's actually a lawsuit about this. The parents sued the company over this, and the defense argument was basically that the bot constitutes a personality, that therefore it had a freedom of speech or something. I'm not exact on the
Interesting route.
Yeah. So what do you guys think?
Well, like a very easy plug for this problem, you could just say that you can only use AIs if you're over 18. And then I guess it's a tool. I mean, I
Well, should there be a clause in the user state of agreement that cannot be mentally unwell, you cannot be upset?
maybe, yeah, actually, maybe. But what I'm thinking is, like, if you want to write a story, and that story you have a character that is thinking or going to do this, then I guess then the ChatGPT or something else can write out the story. It can play with you and have a dialogue or something. Maybe it's acting as a evil person, and then if somebody for some reason all of a sudden decides that it's talking directly to me, it's not acting, and does it, I mean, it doesn't feel fair to punish the company that created the language model.
And I mean, in the end, don't you have the same issue with other social media platforms like Instagram and stuff that are not supposed to be for children, right?
Exactly.
Because you see all these picture perfect people with all of their thousands of friends and their loads of money, but in the end, it's just one big show. People just show off whatever goes well in their life, or they create a picture of what's supposedly going well in their life. And you have already these 13, 14-year-old girls who think they should not eat anymore because they feel like they don't look like the girls in the pictures they see on Instagram, even though they're clearly photoshopped or had plastic surgery or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's an issue with all of these digital platforms.
Oh my god! But just just as a tangent to add to your point, is that recently I've been just going to the gym here locally in the UK, and the people attending, I was shocked. I because normally you see people in their 20s, or at least they're adults, But what I've seen are local school children, both young boys and girls, they're like 14 and 15, and I could just see them just taking pictures of themselves, and then sort of in a very, the girls were doing it in a somewhat sexual way, the boys too, I think, and they were just working out, and then they're just taking pictures of themselves, and I just feel like, how difficult is it to exist in the world as a teenager now? That in order to be cool nowadays, you can't just be that edgy kid. You've also got to have an online presence, and there's also that the fact that if you have a lot of followers, that's some kind of a street cred for school, right?
Yeah.
I remember when
I'm
came out.
I'm happy that whenever I see teenagers in the gym here, I've never seen I barely see anyone taking pictures of themselves. I feel like it didn't catch on here yet. Maybe, hopefully, never.
I don't know. The whole image was just so disturbing because I could see that there was this young lady, and she was clearly streaming on I don't know what platform. She was live on TikTok or something, and she's in these really tight yoga pants. She's dressed in a very revealing way, and I would feel comfortable if this is an all women's gym and she's doing that, and that's completely fine. But it's Pure Gym, which is it's a a big franchise, kind of like a mid to low tier kind of gym in the UK. And then you just see this creepy old guy behind her just staring at her ass. I could see it. And he was not shy about it. And she didn't seem to mind as well. And it was just a very odd image, like, for me to take in. And I can't believe, I cannot fathom how difficult it is to be a young woman now. My goodness, you have to be beautiful, you have to be, slim, you have to be fit, and you have to have some kind of there's a constant popularity contest, that goes on beyond school hours.
I don't feel like you have to, though. Like, when
I was a teenager, it was the same for girls and boys, I guess, in a way. But without the constant social media already. But although we already had a little bit of social media, but it is a bit different. I remember two of my friends basically sat down me at my computer and said, "You have to create like your own page." At that time, we had a local social media. I cannot say it's like Facebook, but I guess it's kind of like Facebook in a way. And they're like, "You have to create this." And I was like, "Well, all right."
What we had was a before Facebook, before any of these social medias from the West. What we had was a blog, a wretch. Was it called WRETCH? Some listeners from Asia would know this if you're a '90s kid. And back in the day, it was all about blogging. You had to you have to come up with like post every day, and then I used to write lyrics and poems and shit. And oh my goodness, I'm glad the website is down, because if you can find what I used to write, it's cringe.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But isn't there this one website where there's like a mini city in your blog, and the more visitors you have, like the more people who visits your blog, like the more populated the city will become? Wasn't there something like that?
Wait, what? Which one was that?
I don't know. I think maybe it's just like a plugin on Blogger or something like that. But I remember there would be this little thing, and I only started blogging because of that little city game.
What? I forgot. I don't know. The closest I could think of is like a 2D type of game like Club Penguin, but then that's kind of like a children's MMO. It had nothing.
No, it's basically just like a visitor tracker, like a viewer counter, but it's just made in a way where like the more viewers you got, the bigger your city get. And I thought it was a game, so that's why I was like, this is cool. I'm gonna make a big city, because I was into like Sim City and all that stuff. But yeah, I remember I had this phase as well where I wanted to be popular on Facebook and all that. But at some point, like I realized, like I don't know half these people. Who the fuck are they? And I just deleted it.
Sometimes I see when somebody removes me from their friends and then they appear in the like suggested people and I'm like, wait, didn't I already add that person?
Wait,
Did they unfriend me? The fucker?
No, but Bernard, you went through a couple of these cleansing moments. You were like, "Oh, guys, I'm gonna quit Facebook," and then I think you did the same with Instagram or something.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore at all right now anymore.
Oh, you were so.
Because at some point it just like it never really resonated well with me. Like I'll be part of the clique and all that, and but always at some point I just start feeling like, man, this is stupid.
You know,
The doom scrolling at night.
Yeah.
Guys, do you remember like social media in the early days, including Instagram, where if you keep scrolling, right, eventually it gets to a point it says, that's it, you're all caught up, like you're done. You know, there are no.
Yeah.
But that never happens anymore because there's so
Yes. Oh my.
so much content out there.
Yeah.
And it just turns into the doom scrolling session at 2 a.m. and suddenly it's like 4 a.m. and you're like, what have I done?
And you promise to go jogging the next day and you're like, fuck.
It's intense.
Yeah,
no, but I think.
Yeah, but then again, like due to my experiences, like I was always a little bit of a social outcast.
A little bit?
Wow.
I kid, I jest.
Until I moved to England, that's where my popularity phase started. And then I moved to Switzerland with you guys, and then that's where I decided to break out of my social shell.
Did you?
Yes, I remember that brave, like when everyone was meeting everyone. And Bernard stood up and said, "Hello, my name is Bernard. I'd like to play video games." I was like, "Wow, that's so brave to say that."
Yeah, because everybody's like trying to be cool, you know. Like they were all like, "Oh, I do sport. I go rock climbing and all that cool stuff," you know. And I'm just like, "Yeah, I like playing video games.
I love that.
I like reading books and shit." Yeah. Like not the cool stuff, but like the nerd stuff.
Mm.
No, I love that in that moment it's very cinematic. Everybody's trying to be cool, and then Dan was just kind of annoyed with how everybody's just trying to outdo themselves, and then here comes Bernard.
No, not really. I don't remember anyone else because I feel like everyone else was pretty standard. And I remember when Bernard spoke up, I was like, "Oh, I need to meet that guy. Like, I need to introduce myself. We might have things in common." And here we are. How much? Like more than 10 years later.
Oh man.
It's like 13 years now.
Yeah.
All right. Oh
But
wait.
so,
Wait, guys, can
Sorry.
I interrupt? I feel like Ursina hasn't done a proper self-introduction. So I think
True.
this is a good episode where she could introduce herself, but also give us an idea of what social media was like in your country, when you were growing up. What services did you use?
Yeah, she has a different perspective from all of us.
I
right.
do.
Yeah.
A very different one.
A female,
Yeah, a female one, and
from Western Europe.
From Western Europe, and a peasant one, because I grew up in a village with less than 300 people. So for us, this whole social media thingy wasn't that big of a deal until I went to high school at a bigger school, right? And I think the first social media platform I was on was Netlog.
What the hell is that?
Netlog.
Middle European. Netlog, yeah. And it used to
like
be
a local one.
I mean, no, it wasn't a local one. It was more like, I think American, European, whatever.
Okay.
But somewhat like Facebook but a very, very poor version of Facebook. And then after that, of course, Instagram, Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But basically, I still have Facebook, but I solely used to use it for work in the last 8 years or something like that, because I used to work in politics, and political campaigning over social media has grown quite substantially. So we needed to have this social media presence, because you can only open up business accounts if like a real person is linked to it, right? And Instagram, I do have Instagram, but I'm currently we are on a break.
What do you mean we? I deleted mine.
No, me and Instagram.
You mean like that? Because you looked at me and you said we are on a break.
The doom scrolling is just too much.
You lose too much time.
But I mean, for me, it was always, because I traveled quite a lot. I went on language exchanges and stuff like that. And for me, those were just tools to keep in touch with people from like other countries. I met a lot of people from South America there, lots of people from the Middle East. And this was kind of the only way of keeping in touch with them, because the messenger world was not that elaborate yet in those times. So WhatsApp and everything wasn't that much of a deal back then. But apart from that, I'm working with Bernard for the second time already. I always say he's my favorite boss in that sense, and he's always like, that's not fair because you've never had another one in this context. But
You're the best one I ever knew. You're the only one I ever knew.
That's what I'm saying. I'm the only one you ever knew in this kind of context, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a fair statement to make. I could be the worst one, actually.
You're not, but
just to like give an example, right?
Yeah.
I just love the idea that you say that now, but then at one point Bernard's gonna start asking if you guys want to play D&D. And then you can make your assessment again.
That's fine. That's not an issue. We're very open people here.
I guess
is that what it is? Oh, one
no.
LV.
Oh, look at that layout. It's so early 2000s. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny.
That reminds me of Neopets.
And all the things you can order for your old like black and white phones.
But
you can order like the custom ringtones. It was early popular at that time.
Yeah, I see it. Nokia, Samsung.
Ursina, what was the one that you said? I want to look it up.
Netlog, but it doesn't exist since 2015.
10 years too late.
Yeah.
Oh,
this picture is too small.
Yeah. Why is it so small?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, that's not small. It's just the resolution back then.
Okay, and so Netlog ran from 2000.
Were you using it on a pager?
No, we were using this on our Nokia flip phones. Do you remember, like the phones that you need to slide out?
The BlackBerry kind of phones?
Yeah. Do you guys remember when phones used to break into pieces whenever you drop them? Like the battery falls out, the SIM card falls out, the back plate falls out.
We still have that issue here.
No, I'm jealous.
With our drug dealer phones.
Yeah. Because we get issued drug dealer phones, like this Nokia phone. Yeah. And every time I drop it, you just see this. The pieces the back case and the battery, and then the battery starts getting swollen, and I'm like,
oh really?
Yeah.
We need to swap this out. I remember I had that Nokia 3310, and it was indestructible. I mean, I didn't try to destruct it, but I would drop it a lot.
Yeah. Now we have a cheaper plastic version of a Nokia here. We don't have that one.
Yeah.
Guys, do you remember when this is turning into a nostalgic episode of the early 2000s? But do you remember when in the early days when we used I don't know if this ever happened to you, but when I was growing up, alongside these social media, the early social media platforms was MMORPGs, like all these online games. It was prevalent, especially in Asia, and it wasn't just a boys' thing as well. It was very gender neutral. Girls and boys both played a lot of these MMOs, and we would have a thing where we enter into fake relationships. We would say, on what. Yeah, like online,
yes.
we would say, "Oh, I'm looking for a wife or a husband," that kind of stuff, And then you would actually you would friend them, add them to your guild, and then you would also add them on Yahoo Messenger or MSN, and then you pretend to be like a couple, even though you were, both of you were like 14 and 15, and it's kind of like a play pretend kind of thing. Did that happen to you guys?
You mean like on Maple Story and stuff like that?
Yeah.
No, I had very restricted access to the internet. We didn't have like Wi-Fi and stuff like that. I remember we still had like the cable connection where when you click connect, it will make the beep, boop, boop noises. And you had to pay per hour or per usage or something like that, and it would be really expensive. So I had like super limited access. Like basically, my dad would go on like CartoonNetwork.com or something, like load up like one of the Flash games and then disconnect, because as long as I don't hit refresh, I could still play. But I would be stuck with that one thing.
We used to have a roller coaster game on our computer because my dad had one of the earliest Macs.
Okay.
And then you couldn't play a lot of the games because they were not made for Mac, right?
Yeah.
But we used to have like a roller coaster park game where you could like somewhat like Zoo Tycoon,
I think
but
Roller
it's
Coaster Tycoon.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
And we used to just play that. But as I said, like I grew up in the village.
Yeah.
So sitting at home playing computer games wasn't really what people were doing, because we would just hang out together outside with the whole village, basically.
I think my first couple of games were like Jumpstart. I think it's a company called Jumpstart. It's like math games and language games, which you had to play the game by doing math or play the game by typing quickly.
Oh yeah, the typing games.
Yeah, but even then, like games were okay, but we used to play a lot of badminton outside. We used to play like hide and seek. Like the children from the block would play outside a lot.
Man, I was wreaking havoc in my neighborhood as a kid with a friend that I grew up with. Now that it's difficult to see that I'm such a calm and charismatic man now, but I used to be just a complete bastard. I would set things on.
mean, yeah, I feel like the same. Did you ever like set like dried leaves on fire and then throw a snail in there, and then the snail would just like explode because of the heat buildup?
And you laugh like an evil person.
No,
okay, not the laughing part, but
no, I did the classic American prank of picking up your dog feces, put it in your neighbor's doorstep. You put dried leaves over it and put some kerosene, and then you light the whole thing on fire. You ring the doorbell. They come out. They need to put out the fire with their feet.
And they step in the shit.
Exactly. It's a very classic American pastime. And I had, yeah.
Fun for the whole
I don't know if it's a felony, but like there was this kid I hate from the block, right? And I remember I would hate him so much. If we don't fight, I would sneak over to his house at night, and I learned from my dad like where the power box was and the fuse box for electricity, right? And I would like open the main main switch for it, and I'll just like flip it off and run away and like just hide behind a car in the dead of the night, right? And the dad would come out. He'll be so pissed. He'll be like, "Who is that? I called the police. I swear I called the police." And I'll just be like giggling and then come back. Like after he goes back in, like I'll wait 5 minutes and then go back and flip it off again and run away. Yeah.
Yeah, that
bet
wasn't something we could do because literally in the village everybody knew you.
Yeah.
And we have a joke, but it's not so much a joke, that if we had to go to school with the bus, right? And if you wouldn't properly greet people on the bus, your mom would know before you would be home. So it's like, this is the environment. This was like a social control above everything.
I always wondered what that's like, because that was my first hand experience in when we went to school in Switzerland, because we were in a very small town. Everybody kind of knew each other, and that's such a refreshing feeling for me, because when I was growing up, there's just
Montreal was not that small.
Okay, it was all right. It was not 300.
Maybe compared to like the hyper cities of Taiwan, yeah. But then you wanted to share some of your experiences too.
Dan?
Me? Well, let me try. Okay, so when I was a child, I wasn't. Which word did you use? Well, basically, I was a very shy and calm child. My mother called me little grandpa because I was a bit of
What adorable.
what's the word? Basically, I was a little bit too pedantic at some points. And I was just listening to Jamie tell that he felt refreshing for having a smaller city where everyone kind of knew each other, and I know the feeling, because the city where I live right now, you cannot say it's small, but it's pretty small, because we keep having these situations where, for example, our friend started to date someone recently, and then all of a sudden that his new girlfriend's friend was showing some pictures, and apparently me and my wife were at this friend's sister's wedding. So it's like it's very easy, like a couple of handshakes, and you usually come back to your own.
You make
like,
full circle.
social circle.
Oh my goodness.
But let me ask you guys a question. So to circle back to the how hard it is to make friends while you get older. How many new friends have you made in the last year?
In the last year,
I mean, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lost one. I would say about 5 or 6, but then again, it's because of the work environment I'm in. I'm kind of forced to be in a situation with several people that I don't know, right? And then we're kind of forced to like trust each other, and then sometimes friendship comes out of it. Or sometimes, you think you're friends, but you turn out that the guy is just using you and just emotionally manipulative. And then you're not friends anymore.
Did somebody use you?
to answer the question, I think I had one new friend.
Okay. What about you, Jamie?
Oh boy. I met some people, but I wouldn't say that they became friends. This is the sad news. So there's a saying that in the queer community, in the gay community, that a lot of our friends, we meet them through apps. So it's kind of like, in the sexual context. And then you're not really friends beyond that context, And so no, not I have none. Maybe with the exception of my my good friend's girlfriend. But then we're friends by proxy, so she's not really friends with me purely on our basis. It was by proxy, right? So I don't really count that as a friend. But yeah, well, what about you, Ursina? I feel like we gave away our sad answers.
No, I mean, I'm kind of in the same situation like Bernard because I met the same people, right?
Yeah.
And even more so, I would say I probably have a few more because before doing this job, we had a boot camp training session where it was only women who didn't do the normal military service in Switzerland to basically prepare us for the work that we do here. And I have a group of around 5 girls from there that we are still in contact with, and we're good friends, I would say, by now. So yeah, probably around 10.
Oh, wow.
And also, she was always the more social one, and
Yeah.
and I was just like the homebody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
How
I'm never saying no to a party, so I meet a lot of people there.
how
so I think out of all of us, she's got the highest number.
how young are you, may I ask?
I'm
How
29.
young are you?
Yeah, don't you love the way I phrased that question? Okay.
That was really, really thoughtful. Thank you very much.
All right. I feel like because we were talking about how as we age, we seem to have a more difficult time making friends, and you know there are if I recall correctly, there are times there are moments where I have to say it was because of my own avoidant
Correction.
personality. no, it's just that I have opportunities to make friends, and there are moments where I have met people and we totally vibed, we had a good time. It could be at a game show, it could be at I don't know where, it could be some kind of occasion, and there was social interaction, but we kind of it kind of just stayed in that moment. We never really asked each other for like ways of contact. Maybe I could meet people at parties, and I never really asked them for their for their WhatsApp or anything. And
Why?
I don't know, it was weird.
Especially you don't feel like it.
Yeah,
it's just like it's good in the moment when it happens, but then you're like,
it's good enough. Yeah, I guess
it does feel
but
weird.
Also,
sometimes it's just nice to leave it at what it was.
I feel like I was kind of shocked at the moment because back then I was so this happened in March, I think. I was in Taiwan, and I because of my upbringing, I have this kind of a cultural, I don't know, this cultural divide between the version of me in the West and then between the version of me in Asia. And it's just that in Asia you don't really approach people like this. You kind of meet friends through friends, that sort of thing. There's a different approach. And I was in a different mindset. And so when I met these Australians through my family's clients, and these are really nice people. I met a bunch of Australian students that were studying in Taiwan, and these are young kids. And we had a great time just going out drinking and all that stuff. But I don't feel, I just didn't feel the motivation to ask them for it. It almost feels embarrassing. It's like, oh, can I ask you? Can I add you on this? Can I add you on that? And I just feel like the time for that is over. It felt perfectly normal that back in 2014 you would ask people for their Facebook. Oh, can I add you on Facebook and all that? That's fine. But nowadays it's weird. You don't really add people on Threads. Do you add people on Blue Sky or Twitter? I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like you said, they were your dad's clients, though. Isn't that like an additional layer of complication? Like you have like a business relationship.
I
Do you want
guess
to cross
so.
that line?
Well, no. It's so there are 2 clients. So these were guys my age, kind of. So we get along naturally, and then they have friends in Taipei that are just university attending children, and some of these.
But they still like they got to know each other via a business. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, there's that, you know, business context. Or
But also what I've experienced since Bernard and we were in this very special situation. There were a lot of people around us. And with the girl who used to be in our team as well, we had these discussions a lot. And it seems like the guys have more issues in keeping up these friendships than the girls do in some kind of way. Because we talked to a former team member and he was like, oh, it's so sad. I'm not in contact, or we're not in contact anymore with any of the guys I was hanging out with. But then her and I, we were like, yeah, but what did you do to keep in contact with them? And he was like, yeah, nothing. Like, that's just male friendships, you know.
That's not true.
But like that was his statement. It's like, oh yeah, you just call each other once a year for your birthday and stuff. But apart from that, if it happens, it happens. But I'll not go out of my way to keep this friendship running.
That's bullshit, first of all, in my opinion, because like I have a couple of friends that I met from the recruit school or like the officer school or whatever, and I'm very selective with people who I want to keep in touch with. But if I want to keep in touch with them, then I make the effort. Like I write them, I ask them how they're doing. We make times, like some time to call and chat and hang out and stuff. Like, and it doesn't matter if they're from one part of the world or another part of the world. I mean, the whole reason why I forced this podcast onto the Jan and Jamie is because
Also,
I
you're
want
not
to,
on our will.
yeah.
So everyone's a hostage here.
Yeah, I mean I realize that's kind of what I do. I kind of just barge into people's lives and I'm like, you look lonely, let's be friends. That's literally how my friendship with Surgeon started.
did
He was sitting alone, eating lunch, and I was thinking, oh, poor guy. He looks lonely. I'm going to be his friend. And I just like sat down on the table and I'm like, hi. And then he's like, what the fuck? I'm just taking my lunch break. But yeah, that's how our friendship started.
That's nice. What was I?
But I disagree with that statement that guys' friendship is that you just ignore each other and only call once a year, and that's bullshit.
No. I completely understand where she's coming from because a lot of my guy friends report the same things. There's that. I don't know if it's a fear of because
Coming across as needy.
Coming across as too needy or too much, like too reliant on other people or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not to say that, you know, perhaps in a different time people would be afraid of coming off as too feminine or too, dare I say, you know, because if you don't know each other that well and then you keep coming on to them, they're like, oh, are you gay? Are you trying to hit on me or something? You know, there's that layer of fear. Yeah, it's
gay
true.
Chicken, what are you, gay? Oh my god.
It is true though. There is that layer of fear, and perhaps beyond that, there's just that feeling of, you know, I don't know if this is toxic male, because between guys, you don't want to be the first one to kind of, you know, let's say if you're in a fight or something, there's this instinct that you don't want to be the first one to yield. You don't want to be the first one to show weakness and be vulnerable, and to maintain a friendship that requires some level of vulnerability, you need to be the one to call. You know, for example, this week I tried to call Dan and Bernard because I wanted to do an experiment of, hey, what would it be like if I just called you guys up and then I would say good night every day, and then I realized there's this time difference, and then
you could still do it.
I know.
That's why you called me like in the middle of the night or something.
I did. And
when did you call me? I didn't even get it.
But it was like
I feel left out now.
I did.
It was like a really short call, like literally the phone just like bit, and that's it.
Yeah, and so I completely
didn't register it.
I completely relate to what Ursina was saying, because at that moment I felt that even though you guys are such close friends of mine, I feel like, oh, okay, first of all, it's late, and second of all, I don't want to bother you guys so much, and I don't want to, because
God.
No.
Yes, I know what it sounds like.
Bernard is acting like he's so offended right now, but he's exactly the same. He's like, oh no, but I cannot call this person right now because what if they are busy? What if they don't have time for me? And I'm like, just call them. If they're not available, they will tell you, or they will just not answer the phone, and you lose nothing if you just call them and try, because if they pick up, you're gonna have a really good conversation with them, maybe, or you just show that you care. But he's acting now like
No,
not
it's
true,
it's
but it
it's
is.
it's cringe. No, it's not. I'm not acting like it's not true or whatever. I'm just cringing because I see myself there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
You literally described
by the
me
way.
like yesterday.
yeah.
Jamie, thank you very much for not calling more than once a week. It's enough as it is.
Damn it! You
Just
see
fucking call me, man.
No, this is.
But you know, I see a fucking mirror and I'm like, God damn it, am I like this?
No, I haven't finished explaining.
No.
Let me go beyond that because
All right.
because look, I knew I was just gonna call you guys for a quick good night because I was just like, oh yeah, hey, I was calling you to say good night. That's it. I knew I wasn't going to take up too much of your time. But the problem,
do it.
yeah, but the problem is if I do it every single day, I fear that I would instill you guys with this expectation that you're kind of like, oh, it's nighttime. Is Jamie gonna call? Is he not gonna call? And then it just becomes a point of a point of stress. You know, you're like, oh, is it gonna happen today or not? And then in that
Did I
regard,
get offended?
yeah,
You didn't call this night.
no,
Yeah, maybe I'll start calling you.
we could do that, and then we could try and report how it feels. So the whole point was that I wanted to try doing that and see, you know, how does it change our lives. But anyway, getting back to the male loneliness pandemic, we basically danced around the subject for half an hour. But I thought it would be interesting, since that we're talking about, you know, making new friends, that Ursina.
Wait. I kind of want to get the Eastern European perspective about like how guy friends stay in touch or keep in touch, or whether or not, like, Dan hasn't said his perspective on that. Like,
true.
Dan, what about between you and your male friends? Because I know you guys have like a group chat, right? Like where you play games together and stuff. But like
they're very close, aren't they? They're super close. So
yeah.
what's the friendship like?
Because I would think you're the most like masculine out of all of us.
Oh, Ultraman.
The toxiest one.
But it's just the environment that he was raised in, right? Like I grew up like living with my sis and my mom. Like it was a very female dominated environment, and Jamie's gay. I don't know why I say that.
Excuse me.
I don't know why I said it like that.
Excuse me. I'll have you know, I'm
Autism coming through.
The autism coming true.
That sounds
But you know what I mean?
offensive and irritated at the same time. And Jamie's like, gay.
whatever. Man.
I don't know why I did it like that. Sorry, Jamie. I hope I didn't offend you or anything.
No.
I just had a retard moment. As Ursina said, it's the autism pushing through.
But my perspective, we are close with my friends. Ever since high school, we had a group chat of somewhere. Back then, it was in Skype. At some point, I don't remember where it transferred to. I think it was on Facebook. Now it's on Telegram. And we just kind of like the group chat is mainly to share jokes or things that happen to us. It's like a mini version of a social network, I guess. Because the stuff, I don't post anything on Instagram or anywhere, but I do like send stuff there. What else? How close are we? You know what? We had a moment where all of us are. I guess all of us were kind of going through our midlife crisis or something, and at that point we kind of opened up more to each other, talked about more vulnerable things, and actually a couple of our friends were like a bit disappointed that basically all we do is joke around and we don't really connect on a deeper level. And
oh my goodness,
and some of them try to initiate it, and I guess it depends on the relationship between like the two individuals. With some, they were able to open up. With some, I was able to open up, and some people opened up to me in return. Some didn't. It was like this complex, not universally opened up to each other, but we're definitely talked about more deeper topics since then, and it still kind of is like that. And keeping in touch, I have a friend that we are good friends, and when he was living here, we would meet a lot. But not so long ago, he moved, and we don't really talk that much now. And I feel like, to be honest, I'm such a person, and I kind of like it that way, that if I talk to someone, then I talk to them and we spend time in some way, even if it's online. But then if I don't feel like it, I don't. And a long time can go by, but I don't. I feel like for some people, the longer you don't communicate, the colder the relationship between you get.
Yeah.
Like you're becoming strangers. But for me, I like when we just like kind of pause it at what it was when we last communicated. Like some people that we were good friends with will just message me all of a sudden, and it won't be a scam. Then I'll just resume from where we left off.
And I think that's the hard part with adult friendships, right? Because at some point you have to realize that we are all adults, we all have our lives, we have so much going on in our lives, and sometimes you just don't have the capacity to keep up with everybody. And those who can live with the silence and live with the fact that maybe you're not speaking for 3 months, but when you start again, it's like you never left.
Yep.
Those are the ones that you want to keep.
Yeah. I was going to say that, do you remember last couple weeks ago when we talked about how that between men, especially in male friendships, that a lot of people tend to, whenever it gets to some kind of a soft spot, whenever the conversation gets to something slightly vulnerable, where either party has to be vulnerable, men tend to kind of just carry through that moment with a joke. They like to make a joke and then sort of just move on from that moment, and I was just going to ask, they like to brush it off with humor, and humor is a sort of a defensive mechanism in this case. But I was going to ask you guys, do you think that perhaps among, because I can see that, am I sexist in this way? Because I feel like between women, like female friend groups, especially, from me as a gay person who has both like a all female friendship as well as male friendships, I feel completely comfortable just constantly sharing about myself and then listening about, their personal lives. We share about our, very personal things every day, every time we talk. But between me and my guy friends, especially my friend from Taiwan that I grew up with, I feel myself fitting into that more traditionally, conventionally masculine role where, yeah, whenever it's something kind of vulnerable, I like to make a joke about it. I brush it off and I don't be as vulnerable. Is there a reason to that? And is there a benefit to that, perhaps? That would it be a different world where men are just completely vulnerable with each other all the time? Because I feel that there's this undertone of competition among men as well, especially maybe nowadays in this capitalistic world where people constantly compare how each of us are doing, financially, romantically, blah blah blah, all these markers of success. Do you think there's a reason why we do this, and do you think is it going to be a better world if we didn't?
I think, first of all, I agree with you about how I feel when I'm communicating with females and males. I also, at some point, I felt like I can only really have a deep conversation with a female friend. It was before we opened up to each other, and you guys actually. You are the people that to whom I cannot speak for like several months, and then we just pick up like nothing, like we had the conversation yesterday. And so yeah, I agree with you. I also feel like I can be more intimate with female friends. At least it was the case at some point today. I feel like it was equalized more. And why this happens, why males try to be more masculine among each other. I think it starts when we are becoming teenagers, because we get drenched in hormones, and like all our social statuses and everything become really, really important for us. I guess it's a normal biological process. I'm guessing this is the point when nature thought that this is where we're supposed to build our social circle, build our status, like starting building our own community and family, and that's where we get all somewhat aggressive towards our parents. I think that was the idea, that this way we're kind of pushing ourselves away from the family so we can become independent. But then as the time passes, like there was a point in my life where I guess all the hormones stabilized and everything became normal again, where I was like, I don't really care anymore. And all of my friends, they don't care anymore. And that's when we were able to open up more, because I guess the competitiveness was gone, because we were past that life stage.
I think
I'm not sure what we can do to change that.
I feel like for some people, like they never get past that. Like maybe they were never thought. Maybe they never learned it by themselves. I feel like for some people they're always stuck in that. Oh, I gotta one up you. I gotta show how much of a man I am. It's like I remember Jamie mentioned I remember Jamie also asked a question like, have you ever felt the need to like prove your manliness? And I'm like, yeah, it was like a month ago or so, and I'm like, no, not really. Why? For what? You know, I carry handbags for women. Like I don't care. Like for me, it's not a handbag. It's just a bag. Like I guess when I was younger, I would maybe be more conscious of it. But these days, I just don't give a fuck. If they need help, like I'll carry it. It doesn't matter. I'll sling it over my shoulder because it's easier to carry.
But it goes beyond that. You know, for example, a thing I know that you do, that you have told us that you've done, is a perfect example of one trying to prove his own manhood, and it's perfectly normal. You know, things like. So let's say whenever you feel like, oh, why did I feel this way? Why was I like this? I shouldn't be like this. I need it to be, you know, more in control, more discipline. You know, that those kind of thoughts that come inside your head. That is an example of one, you know, wanting to prove himself. You know, and there's a female version of this as well. That's absolutely normal, right? And I guess my point of the earlier conversation about, you know, just being vulnerable to one another, do you guys think is there a benefit that some guys a lot of men just have this sort of banter relationship with each other? It never goes beyond that. You know, it's just banter. When you get together, it's all about making fun of stuff. And you rarely talk about some of the more vulnerable sides of your life. Is there a benefit to that? I don't know. Is that what fraternity was? Like, because none of us have ever been in a fraternity or a sorority. Ursina, have you been in a sorority? That kind of.
One sec. I'll tell you my thought when you ask that question is that
Okay.
this way nobody ever truly knows me, and nobody will ever be able to hurt me on a deeper level because I never gave them that ammunition.
Yeah. Good point.
To your question, no, I've never been in a sorority, but I would also argue that this competition also exists in female friendships.
Oh, it must.
And I would even say that it's way more ruthless than in male friendships, because women can be real bitches, and it's always about, hey, who looks better, who is more slim, who is more popular, who has the more expensive whatever. And I, for my part, I've grown so tired of these friendships that I keep a very, very small circle of trusted women around me.
Yeah.
And the second I feel like there is some sort of competition, I've started to cut people out of my lives because I cannot be bothered with that, because it weighs you down, it drags you down. If you always feel like, oh, I have to compete. Oh, she always feels like if you tell her something vulnerable, she always has to tell you that, but her life is way more hard and she's in a way more difficult situation. And that's just so tiring that I would say this competition also exists in female friendships, but it has kind of a different twist.
You know,
But it's just as ruthless.
I would concur. I would agree that it should be more should be more ruthless, because in risk, I'm gonna risk saying something that's more manosphere like, but I heard this.
Oh, cancelled!
No. Oh well, we need a voice button for cancelled. You know, like cancelled. But the point being, I heard someone say that among men, competition could, it could also exist in like a more physical way. So, for example, when teen boys, meet each other, there's always that measuring up and down. So, for instance, if you are quite, muscular, and then another guy comes along and he's just way bigger than you, there is that, there's already that physical aspect of competition that is already taking place.
Body dysmorphia.
And there's always that undertone of feeling like, oh, if anything terrible happens, I think I can take you down physically. There's that kind of inner measuring at some subconscious level. Like, you don't actively think about it. I imagine you don't always think about it, but it's a thought that could cross your mind. Whereas among women, you don't really think about, I can take this bitch down. You don't really think about inflicting physical violence, but rather you think about inflicting social violence, in the sense that there is a competition where, oh, I could just put you down. I could it very much is true that women can still like alpha over each other through status and, the things that you mentioned.
And I mean, not to whine about it, but as a woman, you're always competing for your place in society, in the workplace, whatever anyways.
Yeah.
So the competition among women becomes ruthless when they don't see each other as allies, but they are like, oh, this bitch is gonna take my place if I cannot put her in her place.
Yeah.
So like, because there's only space for one of us in this whatever company setting or in this friend group setting, so I have to be better than her, or otherwise I'm the one who's being
outcast.
Yeah. And it sounds so sad if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
But it's just the way it is.
Which is why she chose to break away from these kind of toxic circles.
Can I ask you?
Rise up,
but
better.
Can I ask you? Is that why? Okay, this is more personal for me, but especially during my younger years, I found it incredibly easy to make female friends. Is there something attractive about gay guys that to most straight women wanting a friend? Because the lack of a gay guy doesn't really compete with you in that same level, right? It's kind of just, they're kind of just like a guy minus the sexual interest in you. Is there something? Is that why like some people are drawn to the idea of having, finding gay friends?
I mean, honestly, in all of my friends that I've had over the years, there was one gay guy that I know of. I mean, that's always no, but
yeah.
that's always the thing. And I wouldn't say I was drawn to him because he was not competitive in this sense, or more he felt like more like an ally, but because he was just such a creative and cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't say that for myself. Maybe other people think that way or are wired that way, but I've always had a lot of guy friends when I was younger. Now it's kind of balanced out. But I was just like, because I couldn't be bothered with all the bitching and all and all
Wow.
I should get my nails done and then this is that. And it sounds very, very mean now, but like I just couldn't be bothered with that. I would rather just go out and play football, whatever.
Oh, I see.
I had a thought. I was thinking that maybe what women like in having a gay guy friend is the clarity about the question of whether is there something intimate or like hopes of a relationship there.
Yeah,
Like they feel like they can. They feel like it's clear that their
He's gay.
communications
He's not
will
going to
not
get into
come
my
off.
pants.
Well, not that. Well, maybe also that. But I was going to say the clarity of being sure that their communication is not going to be perceived as a attempt of a relationship.
yeah.
So they can. So it's easier for them to have a friendship.
Yeah,
Yes,
thoughts?
I mean, I never gave a fuck about that, to be honest.
Can I? Okay.
Like in the sense that people will always talk about you if they feel like they need to talk, and that sounds very arrogant now, but this talk needs to be earned in a sense. If they think you are if you think that the way you interact with other people is so interesting that it needs to be talked about, then I'm like, maybe your life is just super boring and maybe you should focus on other things. But maybe there is a point in that. But then also with a lot of gay guys, you might not even, or other people might not even know that they are gay. So you have the same issue again. But for you, it might give you a bit more of a peace of mind, because otherwise, for other people to realize that it's not that these people need to be very openly gay or very straightforward about their sexual orientation, which is not so easy for a lot of people.
By the way, let me just complain about the fact that throughout my life, I had always wanted to come out to people and then for them to be shocked. They're like, "What? Really? I didn't know." Never. This had never happened. I come out to a lot of people like just casually. It's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gay." And then all the people, the most I got out of that was somebody just went, "Oh, really? Cool." And that's it. Nobody was ever shocked. I'm so annoyed.
What was our reaction?
Oh, but you guys were among the first. You guys were like my OG. You guys were my OG coming out of the closet story. I think you were kind of you were kind of disgusted. I could see it in your face.
What?
No. But yeah,
I remember my thought was that it was a sudden, very intimate secret that I was shared with, and I felt like I felt that I'm appreciative that I was entrusted in knowing this, and I felt like I have to be careful and caring about this moment.
Ooh.
So it was this moment where I was like just trying to be careful.
I see. By the way,
In
guys,
my memory, Jamie, you can correct me because I hit my head too much. My memory is kind of bad. But in my memory, I kind of already knew. And I think we were playing in my room. And I was just like, yeah, I know, dude.
wait.
I don't remember
Can
how
you?
we got to that conversation.
No.
But I was just like,
I was oblivious to
No,
this.
Bernard, can you clarify play? We were playing video games. You made it sound like we were playing with each other physically.
no, okay, yeah, okay. Sorry. I meant I was playing Fallout New Vegas, and I don't remember what you were playing.
Skyrim.
Skyrim, yeah. And then I don't know what we were talking about, but it just came out like, yeah, by the way, I know you're gay or something like that. And for me, it was just like, whatever, man. It doesn't change a thing. You're you, I'm me, we friends. It's all good.
Oh, so sweet. You know, I was wondering why that there is such a case of gay guys, and there's that classic friendship between gay men and straight women. Why aren't there as often? Why don't you often find like straight man with a gay woman? Why is that alliance not really there?
Interesting.
Because you can't get in her pants.
That's not true. I know a couple of gay
That's
women. No, I mean, like, I know a couple of gay women, but one's just like a really annoying girl. Like, she was like a hardcore gender warrior. Like, and it's like, don't make your life around that. Look, I know you're trying to push awareness and all that stuff, but I already know it. I'm treating you like you're just a normal human being. Can you also treat me like a normal human being and not blame me for all the bullshit that's going on in the world? Because at some point it's like, yeah, but you're preaching to the choir. You should turn this somewhere else. And that got annoying. But the other one is fine.
Oh,
wait, no, is she gay?
No, but no, I misunderstood you because when Ursina said, "Oh, because you can't get into their pants," and then you said, "No, that's not true." I was expecting you to come up with a way of how you got into their pants.
What? No.
You see, I was just waiting for it. I was like, well, okay, what's the secret?
No, but see, the thing is, at some point along the way, I just treat people as people. Like, I don't care if they're guys or girls anymore. And especially in this work environment, I have a very hard iron rule where, like, no relationships. Just no relationships. Too much bullshit. I'm in a leadership position. I have to be a good example of what I want. Like, no, if anything is to happen, then it's only outside of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, let's so we are almost we're 1 hour in. I feel like at the last section of the podcast we could talk about what are your kind of like your advice for mitigating the modern day loneliness? What are some ways that you feel that we can do?
Hey, look, can I start this?
Yeah, please.
There's something I kind of want to get off my chest. I feel like it's just a lot of us. As we get older, we get used to our routine. We get comfortable. We have our clique and we stay in it. And we don't. I feel like we're afraid to go out of our comfort zone. Like we're afraid to let ourselves be potentially, because look, if you don't let yourself be vulnerable to somebody who you're trying to connect with, they pick up on it, right? They feel it too.
Yeah.
And if you're always guarded, then they're gonna be guarded too. But if you take that risk, like if you go out somewhere, whatever your hobby is, a D&D game club, Comic-Con, whatever it is that you want, because you want to click with your kind of people as well, right? You don't want to click with somebody who's not gonna get you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't let yourself be vulnerable, if you don't get out of your comfort zone to go do these things, and when you meet these people, you don't let yourself be emotionally vulnerable to just try to invite them into your lives, and then just see. Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, but then you'll see, right? You don't want and you don't want anyone who's not gonna make time for you anyway. So just let them have the option and then see what they do with it.
But how do you address the the problems that I feel like as we age, it's becoming more apparent for me, and according to some of my friends, it's the fact that um, you said you want to connect with people that are more like you, that you have more kinship with, either through your interest or a commonality somewhere. But when we were younger, it was far easier for us to make new friends with people that are drastically different from us. Whereas I feel like now it would be very difficult for me, for example, to have a friendship with, let's say, somebody who's very academically achieved, somebody doing theoretical mathematics or whatever, and then there's that prejudice going in, where people kind of, where you feel like, even though I try not to do this, but I can feel that when I'm first meeting somebody, we very quickly put each other into a box. I would say, okay, well, this is a guy who is, this is a very alpha male guy who's into sports, a very manosphere, Rogan kind of vibe, or this, or this guy's really into like nerdy stuff with his StarCraft or whatever. There's that prejudice that you subconsciously would put people into boxes, and then you feel that people do the same to you. So how do you combat that feeling? How do you how do you make friends with somebody who's just so different from you?
How do you know that they are so different from you?
Could be
What makes you think that? I mean, just because somebody is academically way more superior than you doesn't mean that they're really that much different. Just because they had a different path in life doesn't mean they're not actually similar to your mindset or how you think or not. I think the problem is here, it's just projection. You already decided what this person is like. You already decided what this person does is better or not compared to yourself. I think the approach is already wrong.
Yeah.
You're walking in with already these expectations and all these things that you said it was easier to make friends as a kid. It's because we don't think about all these things as a kid.
Precisely.
We walk in, it's just another kid, and you're both blank slates. You don't think about, oh, did this kid come from a rich family, poor family? Did this kid get bullied? No, you just it's another kid, right? And it's what I said about, like, I don't think about people as guys or girls anymore. It's just another person. The only thing I focus in on, are they cool to hang out with? Do I have fun, or are they a fucking asshole? Literally, it's just that. Guy, girl, old, young, they don't really matter. I've met young people who's way fucking more mature than I am, or that most people I know. And I've met like older people who's so fucking sheltered, they're like fucking imbecile kids. It's like, it doesn't matter, but we already pigeonhole them, as you said. We already make a box about them, that you're not treating them as them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but it's just my 2 cents. So.
The problem is that, of course, you can consciously try not to do this. My point being that I'm afraid that all of us subconsciously do this. There's always that, the classic measuring up and down. There's always that assumptions you subconsciously make about people, and my point being that maybe that this subconscious act of putting people into boxes is what keeps us from being vulnerable. And I feel that so the point that I was trying to get to is that I often find that nowadays, if you want to make new friends, the easiest way for me to do it, that I've personally experimented, is to be vulnerable. Just connect to people, as opposed to, you know, like at a business conference or whatever, people talk about, oh, their annual income or the latest, you know, their portfolio growth, you know, their investments, whatnot. People like to, there's that stereotype of boomers liking to connect through discussing their successes, you know, oh, my ventures here, my success there. Whereas I feel like it's far easier to connect with people on a fundamental level by just being vulnerable, talking about something that is more personal to you, something that's perhaps that you find embarrassing, and that people connect better over that.
Yeah, because you're more genuine. Ursina wants to say something, but then but for me, when I say that, like, to what you say is just like, yes, be more human. Nobody's perfect. And also, just because other people do it, then rise above, break from the chain, do better. But yeah, Ursina wants to say something as well.
No, I just feel like this whole loneliness epidemic talk thing, why does it have to be about always meeting new people? Why don't you just take care of the ones that you already have and make sure, because you chose these people for a reason, and they are similar to you, that you are comfortable with them in some way, because otherwise they wouldn't have been with you through whatever parts of your life. So to me, the solution to this is just not being this human who always strives for more and new things, but get comfortable with what you have and really take care of the people that you have. Even if that means, I mean, when I look at my friend circle, we got to know each other when we were teenagers. We used to hang out, we used to party a lot together, and now they have kids. So obviously their priorities shift. And I don't have kids, but I still can emphasize with them on the level that, hey, obviously we're not gonna go out and get fucking drunk anymore, but maybe it's brunch now. Maybe it's going to the playground with them and have a deep talk with them while the kids play, or just go spend an afternoon at home with them, because they are stuck with their kids at home all day. They are super happy if someone comes by and if they just have someone to talk to.
Fresh air, yeah.
Fresh air. And you don't need to reinvent the world. Just look at your people, find out what they need and how you can contribute to what they need and how they can contribute to what you need. And I used to have so many friends, but they were all shallow as fuck.
Yeah.
And now I have a small friend circle and I feel more fulfilled than ever in that sense.
Yeah.
But it requires you to reprioritize, make compromises, and also just get out of your routine and do something that you might not necessarily would consider if it wasn't for spending time with your friends.
Yeah. And the whole reason why I emphasize more on the get out there and meet somebody new thing is because some people, unfortunately, they as they mature, as they grow up, they realize their friends, as you said, were shallow. They were just there, but they weren't there when you needed them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they end up feeling alone. They end up feeling like they didn't have any friends. And I was referring more for people like that then you have to.
Obviously, but a lot of people are so focused on always getting new friends and meeting new people that you can impress, which I'm like, why don't you just take care of the ones you have?
Yeah.
And get into these real deep conversations with them, be vulnerable with them, because they know you. They've seen you in all stages of life. They've seen you through the best and the worst.
Yeah.
So if you are not comfortable with opening up to people that
already know,
then that might be an issue in itself.
Yeah.
Fair point. What about you, Dan?
So I have a couple of, I guess, points that came up to my mind while I was listening to you. So I remember when we were talking about how it is easier to get friends when you're a child or you're a teenager. And I think the reason for that is you're just put in a position where you have a lot of people that have a lot of common things. So it's natural you'll find a lot of friends. And, when you're a child, it's school. When you get older, it's the uni. And I also had friends that are kind of similar to that when I was working in a company where there are other colleagues. You have people that you're friends with because you have something in common, something significant in life in common. You work in the same place. You do similar stuff. You even have humor that other people don't understand. You can just say one word and the other person understands what you mean, and it's funny. It's like I had a moment where me and my wife we were working in the same company, but we were in different departments. And she said it's sometimes interesting to listen me talking to other colleagues, and we're like making jokes, but they're ununderstandable for her because they're like basically inside jokes for people that are from that department. But anyways, the first point I was trying to make is that it's kind of like what you said, Bernard. Put yourself out there, but maybe in a more, I would add in a more, how should I say it, in a more precise way. Like what I mean is that you should start doing things that you like, you're interested in, and and in that way putting yourself out there. And this is the point where you can meet people that are, if they're also there, they're also interested in these things, and then you can maybe connect. But then for me that's not enough, because I'm not sure why, but there's only like a very little few people to whom I can just talk and talk, and we keep coming up with new things to talk about. And I think it's something I put it for myself like a talk principle, or maybe what kind of talker type you are. What I mean by the talk principle, like me and my friend here, we can talk really well to each other and for a long time because the way we discuss things is that we're kind of like semi-debating. We can talk about complex stuff. We can disagree at some things, but like for us, it's normal that we can disagree on something, and even if I don't like something, I can still discuss it in a nice and civilized way. And for me, that's really important when you can like talk about nuances and contradicting topics, but at the same time, still, I feel like it's such a cliche and a boring way to put it. Like with respect with each other, but not just respect, but like you actually listen, you you value the opinion of the other person to listen to it, and maybe adjust some of your opinions based on the new information you get, and the other person is doing the same in return. And the second part of this second topic is talker type. I feel like I'm not a leader in a talk, and maybe I feel like for me to have a really good conversation, the other person has to be the person that really likes to talk, and they bring up subjects. They're like leading the talk. This is also the same with this same friend from here. And also, Bernard, I had the same feeling with your sister. She kept apologizing that she likes to talk a lot, but I thought to myself, this is perfect because I cannot lead a talk, and when someone else is leading it, it's perfect. I like the conversation is interesting, and we can keep talking. And
That needs to be adopted by a talkative person.
yeah, basically.
It's like an extrovert adopting an introvert.
Yeah. Yeah, very similar. Well, and the last one, I agree with Jamie about the vulnerability. I also recently understood that if I really want to have a good friendship, I should talk about the things that are on my mind, that worry me, or not only worry, but that are on my mind. Because before I would filter them out, thinking that, oh, like, what if they are not important for the other person? I'm not even sure. I don't know the thought process. It was something, like on a deeper level that is not conscious. But I would filter them out, and instead I would talk about things that I thought we should talk about, right? Like they're logically constructed topics. And now I just allow myself to talk about the things that are on my mind, because that's the only way you can have an authentic conversation, and it's the only way for me to feel interested in this conversation, because otherwise it feels like a chore.
It does. It does. Oh, we can't just talk to talk. We've got to walk the walk, right? So, is it that next week we need to talk about our vulnerabilities, something deeply embarrassing? No, not necessarily embarrassing, but it's just something that is, something that we're vulnerable about.
We can, but when you said that, I thought that I feel like we did a lot of that already.
That is true.
We keep talking about a lot of different stuff.
No, you know what? What the challenge for us should be that we could try to have a conversation, and we will do everything we can to brush it off, like to banter. Like we will not be vulnerable at all. Just it's maximum masculinity. We brush everything off. And then it's a challenge we do to ourselves that we cannot talk about anything substantial or something vulnerable. And see how
that conversation even go anywhere.
Right? I don't know. And see how long we last.
Why are you even talking about that? Are you gay or something?
Oh man.
Sorry.
By the way, Ursina, just so you know, what I had to put up with was that in university, these two guys, right, Ben and Dan, constantly were like, "Oh, that's gay. This is gay. That's fucking gay."
At that time, the meme where the guy in the back seat yells "gay" was really popular.
No.
So if we didn't like something, we would just be like, it doesn't have to be even related remotely to being gay.
I mean,
but we would say gay.
In German as well. Like, and it's really not good, but it's such a standard thing to say that you almost cannot get rid of it. Well, I'm sorry you had to keep up with these two.
but oh man, wait, what was the German version of it?
Schwul. Das ist so schwul. It's so stupid. But it's such a. It used to be such a standard phrase when we were young that you would call everything gay. That wasn't like, But
that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
That was weird or whatever.
Yeah. That's so strange.
Out of the norm.
Because at the time, we didn't have the equivalent in Chinese. None of us ever said it.
Yeah, for us as well. It was only in the uni where that joke caught on. And for me, it only was because of that meme.
Yeah.
Right. Indeed. Okay.
For Jamie.
especially made for me.
Are they talking about me?
All right.
Before you came out.
If it's okay, so
I remember it was a point where you came out. You're like, "Can you please stop?" Like, I think when you finished coming out, you said, "And can you please stop using that joke? It's really offensive." And you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, sorry."
Did I say offensive? I'm not sure if I said offensive.
Something.
It's not cool.
You made us know that you don't like it because of and in the context of the new information we got.
It was so because you guys were using it so much. At one point, you guys pointed to a chocolate bar and you were like, "Yeah, that's gay." What?
What?
Yes, there was a conversation about, I don't know, maybe it was about Twix or some kind of chocolate. You guys were making fun of the packaging of a chocolate. And then you were like, oh, that's gay. And then something broke in me at that point. I was just like, oh, that's too much. That is such a cheap shot at comedy. And that should not pass for something that is funny. Because I strive for higher levels of comedic humor. And then I just had to say something.
Eyebrow humor. Yes.
Jimmy's like, I strive for a higher level of comedic humor. And me and Bern are like, gay.
Oh man, that is so true. But all right, guys. Shall we end the podcast? It's 1.5 hours in.
Yeah.
So as a finishing note, thank you, Ursina, for joining. Hopefully we will hear a lot more from you. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, and as a nod to the episodes, about loneliness, if you ever feel like you're too lonely, you can feel free to join us on Patreon and leave well, our friendship is for sale, okay?
For a low price.
For a low price. Yeah.
You can have the illusion that you're not lonely for a couple of minutes.
No, but seriously though, I think it would be it would be so cool if we can talk about like something our viewers suggested. So, like a viewer suggested topic. That'd be exciting.
Or hold on. What do you think we should talk about next week, Ursina?
Oh god, I need some time to think about that, but I will let you know.
All right, sounds good.
Exciting.
We want that parasocial relationship with our listeners. We want them to think that they are our friends, so that they keep coming back and throw us some shackles.
That would be fun.
Oh shit!
All right.
Oh, I have a pretty unhinged guy, which we could have.
Then you're getting cancelled for sure.
Okay, no, maybe
I
not.
think you mentioned this before.
Yeah,
it would be fun to debate him. Like we could debate him on something, and then because
it's pointless. We try that every single day.
he's really ingrained in his mindset.
yeah,
I'm on his team, and our car rides are somewhat interesting sometimes.
But like I said, this could be one of those like Patreon only, behind the paid walls, only unhinged.
The unhinged truth.
Yeah. But Jamie did mention though. We said we're gonna wrap up, but Jamie did mention though that this controversy also sells and attracts attention.
It does.
Yeah,
but not from the right people, if you ask me.
Fair enough.
So true.
But yeah,
it's true.
Maybe.
And you have the whole incel and far right community battling in your comment section.
Oh,
hey, that's good for traffic. I would love that.
Yeah, that's the comments and the community engagement.
Sell your soul.
Yeah. How much is worth it, right?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Like, how much are you willing to sell yourself out for?
That would be a good topic. How much would they have to pay you?
Honestly,
Oh.
I don't know, $1. It doesn't have to be much.
Oh, money!
Right. Sorry. So okay. Well, we'll conclude the episode here, and hopefully next week we'll have a topic suggested by Ursina. So depending on how that conversation go, we will eventually compliment her or insult her. We'll do it on the show. We'll see how it goes. Right, guys, if you'd like, leave a comment. We'll reply to literally everything. And thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.